The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to yet another feature focus session. Last session before the summer break, as many people begin to go on summer breaks in these parts of this. Today's session is a bit different, and it's called Ask an Expert, which in this case is assumably me. There's no content for this session today. You can see there's only this one slide. Because it's all about you, it's about you asking the questions to me, and I will try to answer the best as possible. And it can be pretty much about anything. I cannot guarantee I can answer everything, but I can try as much as possible. It can be in usability packets, iPayment, our portal, CRM for Outlook, new things you would like, and I will try to show as much as possible. If it's something I can see already takes a lot of time to do, I will only highlight what you can do or give a scenario, and then we can take it later on in our support system. Also, as I mentioned today, this has been recorded, and the way you ask questions is you either write them in the Q&A session on this GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar as it is, or if you want to be unmuted and then go in and work with ask your question via phone, you are allowed to do that as well. I will open up for the different people. But this is your session, and if you don't ask questions, this will become very boring very quickly. Let's begin. The final thing I will say before we begin is I'm unfortunately limited to around 30 minutes today, so I need to cut this short at 15:30. So without further ado, let's begin. And the first questions are already coming in from a person called Thiago, who have a question. Let me just control the session here. So Thiago asked, I need to know how to create an easy B1 validation selecting the whole column of a grid. Selecting the whole column with 4 rows in a grid. Well, that really depends on what grid we're talking about. I have a business one here. And if it's something like, for example, a sales order, it's not really possible because you talk about selecting lots of rows just like this, for example, where I select multiple rows in the system, and that's because choose from list of items can select multiple rows. But SAP have not made us be able to do this in, for example, a sales order, so I cannot control click in order to get more rows. They have chosen, because in any matrix in Business One, you can choose if you are allowed to do multi-select or not. So in this window, you cannot multi-select, and we cannot change the rules of Business One in that area. There it would not be possible. But other places it would be possible. So for example, if we go to B1 UP's mass delivery screen, let me see if I can get this up and running. Okay, cannot press that button. But yeah, let me try it in the other screen here. If I am to select these, first of all, in order to select them, if we choose system information here, you can see that this is column 0. The way you do that and select a system in here is, let's make a button, test button here. Need to move some overlays a bit here. So if I make a button, you can do this with macro in order that you can say click, and then you need to choose your matrix. In our case it's 38, but you cannot write 0.0 because 0 in our case means it's only the item I worked with. So you can go in and instead write rows header .0. That means click on the rows header, which is the technical name of this column out here. And then you could, for example, say I want to click on the third row. So if you did that, it would go in and click on the third row for you. If you were to have a matrix that could do it, you could go in and do it like this. You need a fairly recent SAP version, one of the 2016.04 version, I think, where you can go in and here tell the system if you want to hold down Control or Shift down while you're doing it. So in matrices here, you can see if I press 3 and hold down Control and press 6, it will select 3 and 6, and that's multiple. While if I hold down Shift while I press 6, it will choose all between 3 and 6. So you would be able to script that in a scenario where you actually have something that can work. So I could go in and write something like this, where you write, I want to click on the third row, and then I want to hold down Control and press 6, and I will have 3 and 6 selected if it's defined by the system that is allowed to do it, or I can do it with Shift. But again, it requires 2016.04 or 06. I cannot, on top of my mind, remember exactly what it is of that. But that's the way you can do it in the system. But again, you need a system that actually allow you to do it. So that I hope answered the question. So yeah, before adding a form, I imagine you want to select the rows before that. Okay. And there's also that you want to do it as an example in UDTs. Again, it depends on can you do it in a UDT before the system. So let's open a UDT. Seem to have a little problem with my business one. Let me just close and reopen. I don't think actually a UDT can do it in that way, because again, the rules of the matrix is the owner of that matrix who have made it that controls what you can do. Lots of our systems allow us to do it, but others might have some setup that says it makes no sense to multi-select in that way. So I'm just getting my system back in order to get it up and running. Yeah, so for example, we talked about printing. It could be in document printing, where SAP have allowed us to actually select multiple, like this. And in there you would be able to script that with the macro of going in and saying click this row and click this row with the modifier of controlled hold down by the system. And in a UDT, if we look at such of one of those, you can see that you're not even allowed to show it here. I'm being asked to show it in a more specific way, so let me show you. Just need some more test data to see here. Oh, that's the dates. Let's get rid of those. So we see some more data. So as example, let me make a button here. Test. Choose test. Go into macro. turn on system information. Say I want to click this row. So click the third row. Oops. And I want to click on the sixth row. So if I make that button show, oops, I need to add it here behind the scenes. So if I press it, oops, must have done something wrong here. Don't need the, oh, I need to of course tell it that it was the rows header. Like this. There we go. And it should choose 3 and 6. If I want to have them between, then shift. And if I clear the selection and choose again, you can see it takes everything between 3 and 6. But as you talked about UDTs, you can see that SAP have chosen not to be able to, on a UDT, be able to highlight a row. Then I cannot highlight a row in the system as you like. So there you need to contact SAP and say, I want to be able to highlight rows in UDTs, else it's not really possible, unfortunately. But the places it is, it's very simple as you saw. So let me get back to the questions. This one is done, this was done, this was done. Yes, we have one caller who would like to be unmuted. Let me unmute him and let's get the questions. So you should now be unmuted, Vimal. So what is your question?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. When I'm using SQL report, right,
Yeah.
and I'm adding the variable, right?
Yeah. So like a variable like this, yeah.
Yes. If I am the again second variable over here,
yeah,
right, and I want to give the where condition where in second variable I just pass the SQL query, right?
Yeah, I understand you. That is not supported because all the variables, all the dynamic syntax you put in here comes from the parent window. So that in this case, it's business partner master data. Nobody have actually asked that for that before, but it's actually a pretty good idea. So you want to be able to use dynamic syntax down here as well. Good idea. It's not something that's in there, but I will just write it down in my notes next to my machine here, because that's actually a very cool idea that the first value can be dependent on the second value in the system. So expect that to come in some future version.
I required because if I put the first variable is the item group, right?
Yeah.
In second variable, I just want that item who belongs that group which I'm selecting in first variable, right?
Yeah. You actually might be able to do it with macros right now. I cannot show that because that will take a bit of time. But in macros, you could take this screen and you would have a combo box. And in macros, there's a command called set valid values.
Okay.
And there you write a SQL statement, and that SQL statement can have dynamic syntax in it. So if you made that every time you went out of this field and onto the next field, do the set valid values, that would actually, I think that would actually work here now in the system, but you would probably need to try to test it in a system. So you could say clear valid values and then say set valid values on the new one, so you actually do it based on the first input parameter. That would work today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further questions from you?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I will mute you again. Okay, any others who have questions? I'm not seeing anything in the question section. Again, this become boring if you don't ask some questions. Let me see if there's anything in chat. Thiago, you have another question? Do you want to write in the chat or do you want to be unmuted? Unmute, please. Okay, I will unmute you. Yeah, you are now unmuted, Thiago. What's your question?
Hi, Rasmus. How are you? All right. It's about the information you gave me about macros was very useful, but what I'm searching is to do. I need to add a validation on the add button in an UDT form.
Yeah.
To select.
So when you talk about UDT forms, you're talking about these ones? Or do you talk about a user-defined?
No, sorry, it's object.
User-defined object. Okay, yeah. I must admit I don't have any user-defined objects here, but a screen-like function buttons is actually a kind of user-defined object. Yeah. So what is the question?
Okay. So I need to add a validation.
Yeah.
Before the user hit the add button.
Yeah.
So I wrote a query to select, but it's not working, because I need to do via Boyum to select all the values which I have. For example, in their case,
yeah,
I have 5 rows, and I want to.
An example could be all the ones who don't have a caption, for example, here. So I want to
for example, you can
3 and 4.
You can put 1, 2, 3, 4, and I want to do a sum between those values.
Yeah.
If it is greater than 20, let's say, the Boyum will stop the user to add the form.
Okay, that's possible. And I will imagine you haven't looked into what is called line loop then. Because line loop is the tool to do this. Line loop is a big tool. There's a feature focus session on it alone. And if you go to YouTube, let me show you here. YouTube, Boyum IT, and search for line loop.
I used one time.
There's a feature focus session on line loop. Essentially what you would need to do is you would need to find the UID of your grid. So in my case it would be I cannot show this in an entire system, but it's I will just give you the concept, and the video will then be able to show you exactly how to do it. So in this, but for a sales order, for example, it would be 38 on what you want to loop through. Then you basically want to say, I want to go to every single one of them, and I want to collect some value. And that value could be this field. So you would need to find the dynamic syntax of that field, put it in here. And in that case, it would be a number, else it doesn't make sense to sum. And then you say, I want to append, or I want to append values to this, meaning that when I get a value of 1 and I get a value of 2 on the next line, it will collect a total of 3, total of 6, 10, 15, and so on in this case. Then you would be able to go down here in the conditions and say, I want to only execute a condition if the value I have selected is greater than, for example, 20.
Oh, awesome. Let me take a screenshot, can I?
No problem.
Awesome.
And if you do that, you can do a new valid macro saying a message or do something else and such things. Also, if you look into the documentation under samples, there should be some samples on documentation where you can see there's a lot of automations with line loop here. For example, there's actually one.
Where I can find that?
Download. When you download usability packs, you get the executables that you install and such things.
All right.
Next to it, it has a sample, and you can actually see there's an entire sample on how to calculate a total quantity in a field like that and save it to another field. So line loop is the way to go when you need to do something with multiple lines.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem. Let me see who's the next person in line. The next person in line is one called Carl, and let me. How do you make sure a macro will run on data load from both opening a window and cycling through records from a golden arrows? Okay, so the question is about validation system, the easy way of answering that is it just happens automatically. A data load will always happen no matter how the data is loaded. If it's loaded via a golden arrow, if it's loaded via some strange code that some person have written and just opened the screen, or if you just scroll through here, if you find the system, data load will always happen every single time, no matter how you do it, when you do a data load. So that's actually the answer to that question. Tell me, Carl, if that's not your observation you have seen, and then there must be some kind of scenario that we haven't covered. Okay, I'm unmuting our first caller again. He has a secondary question, so Vimal, you should now be unmuted.
Hello.
Hello, I can hear you. What's your question?
In general entry.
Journal entry, yeah.
Yeah. I create one SQL report. Okay.
Yeah.
There is one situation where in GL account and BP code, right?
Yeah.
When you press tab, it shows you the GL account. When you press control tab, it gives you the BP master, right?
Yeah. So if you press control, you see GL accounts, and if you press control tab, you see BP codes. Yeah.
My question is, when I'm creating the SQL report, right, from the database, I put some records on my SQL report, and I want to copy those records on the JE, right?
Yeah.
At that time, okay, you show me the idea. I think you.
Yeah. And I want to share it with all in the system. The question being asked for is unfortunately not possible due to SAP have a limitation. It's not that much in journal entry we see it. The most people actually ask for it in sales and purchase documents, where people would very much like to go in here, choose an item, and then be able to go into the item description, give another description, and press Control Tab out of that field. Because then you can overwrite the description, you can also overwrite the name on a sales and purchase document. We have tried a lot of different workarounds, tests, hacks to go around this. It is simply not possible.
Is there an alternative?
Say again?
From your side? Is there any alternative way from which I can handle this situation? Is there?
I have not found any beyond using DI API and not using SAP's window. There you can do it, of course, but that requires code. So what we have done is we have gathered, let me go to support.boyum.it, and under product news, we have an article that list all the ideas we would like people to vote on Idea Place. For those people who do not know Idea Place, SAP Idea Place is here. And you can go, whoop, that was not Idea Place.
SAP Idea Place.
There it is. In here you can ask for a question that you would like to see in SAP. And we have collected on Idea Place a lot of things that we would like to see that would make it easier for us to make features. And that feature is one of the features. You can find it if you say CTRL plus tab. And you can see other people would like this as well. There's 22 votes on this, which is fairly high. Yeah, I know you voted, but I would like everyone to vote that also would like to be able to override subscriptions like that, or be able to override the different in general entries. But for now, there is unfortunately no way to be able to do it because there's simply no SDK, and we are always limited by the SDK. Another very common question we ask is it possible, for example, to color this one cell or this one row in order to indicate some problems? Again, SDK stops our what we can do. As soon as SAP have it and it's stable, we normally tend to put it in. But we are in the hands of SAP at some points during the development as well. We try to do much workarounds, but it's not possible at all.
There is one more situation, right? I just want to clear to everyone, or I want you to clear to everyone, is there whenever we are copying from SQL report to our grid or matrix, there is the big difference between grid and matrix whenever we are copying from data from the report.
Yeah,
right? I want you to.
Yeah, and the reason for it is grid is a one base system, so the first row is actually one, like most people will understand. From a coder, that's totally strange because we normally have 0 as the first one, and the matrix version is actually 1 based and the grid is 0 based. So when you send to 1 and 0, that doesn't make sense. I have it on my to-do list to be able to work better between those two, but right now there is some limitations on it where you need to use the dot last and dot last dot minus 1 syntax. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Let me see if there is any more questions. I think we can have one more question.
You can unmute me.
Yeah, I will unmute you and we'll take the last question for today. So last question is, on a line loop, is it possible to combine line number, dynamic syntax, such as item code, and also some SQL code? Can seem only to be able to use SQL code or line code, or you can use SQL and dynamic together, and you can also use SQL and line number together, but I'm not 100% sure that you can put in add line number inside a dynamic SQL, but I'm 80% sure that it's possible. If you can Carl, if you can write to us in support, we can check it for you, or you can check yourself. You should definitely be able to write, let me get a notepad so you can see. You should definitely be able to write SQL : select, and that at some point you use the dynamic syntax. That's 100% secure that you can do. And you can also use line num here, like this. But what I'm a bit unsure is if you can combine these two, so you put this one in and then 5.0.0. line num like this. I believe we made it last year, but don't hang me up on it 100%. I'm 80% sure we can do it actually like this, where combining all three at the same time. But it's the only one I'm a bit unsure on. The other two can definitely be dynamic together. Okay. And there seem to be no further questions as well. So thank you for the questions. As always, if you have more questions, write to our support mail. support@boyum-it.com, where we'll answer as much as possible. And also, of course, always you have our YouTube videos you can go to and see the different sessions, including all the previous feature focus sessions that have been out there. Lots about, for example, the line loop that people have asked for. And also remember that in the download there is always samples and as well in the system. So for this session, I thank you for attending, and thank you for the people who answered questions. Writing to support as paid service, no. The support is normally free if you're a partner. And if you're an end customer, you should write to your partner first and let them answer. But if you're a partner, you can write to us. If it's very complex, you cannot really just write to us and say, I want this line loop, make it for me. That you will be able to be told that will be a premium service. But you will always be told beforehand that it's premium service. It will never be that you just write, get some answer, and then are being billed afterward. You will always be notified upfront if something is a paid service or not. So, yeah, okay. So again, thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll see each other again after the summer holiday. And for those not having summer yet, have a nice day, a future day. Okay, thank you so much.